You're listening to KDT and Blog Talk Radio's Music Interview, and our artist today is R.G. Ingersoll from Motown Records and Hot Tracks Productions. Tell you what, he's letting us know firsthand on what happens when songs that are 2 decades old all of a sudden come back on the charts again and making money like crazy with a brand new audience. Here's R.G. Ingersoll. Thank you for listening.
That's right. You know, Mac walked in the door with Cheaper to Keeper on a guitar at 9 o'clock in the morning. I never will forget it. He walked in the door with that tune, Cheaper to Keeper. You know, and I looked over at Ted. I'd gotten there a few minutes before, and we were drinking some coffee. Aretha was still upstairs asleep. And here comes Mac Rice through the door, strumming. He didn't even say good morning. He just comes through the door strumming. I got one. It's cheaper to keep it. You know. So, you know, it was like one of those type environments. You know, Ronnie Shannon was great. He was kind of quiet, but he was lethal with his pen. You know. But Ted was my main influence, Ted White. Okay. I didn't know at the time that he was responsible for the careers of Della Reese and Dinah Washington. Okay, so that was quite a shocker. You know, I was impressed with what he had done with Aretha, but yeah, but add up the toll here, man. You know, like 3 in a row. Come on, what are you doing right?
I tell you, you're listening to R.G. Ingersoll from Hot Tracks Productions. And earlier we were speaking in the show about the artist, and I should say the song In Search of an Artist. And I tell you, you know, we really can't get enough of this. I mean, we've tried sending this to 2020, Dateline, NPR. We sent this story to everybody, and for some reason we keep getting knocked back down, but the song keeps marching on under its own power, and it gets stronger and stronger every day. It's gotten so strong to the point that our publishing house is calling and writing, and God, they never talk to us ever in forever. And so all you guys from Sony, remember, hey, trust me, you guys are going to do treated really well with these guys.
I think, Kenny, too, what's so phenomenal about this thing with Dowdow's the song Looking for Its Singer is that usually with the missing persons, there's the posters and, and stuff like that going on. But when you don't have any funding to search for somebody, private detectives, and your regular state agencies and stuff can't help you and stuff. Putting up posters on 10 million telephone poles is a task. So, as we sit down and we discuss, why don't we try to find her through her last recording? And if the record takes off, Kenny, we both said, hey, her proceeds are going to that family. Or to a detective agency, we got to find some ashes or something. Hopefully we find her, the little old housewife ready to cut some hit records.
Oh, yes. We would love that dearly. Anyway, Diane Anderson, and we're talking a little bit about missing persons in the music business. And this is a topic nobody really never talk about, missing persons in the music business. There's a lot of songs out there with missing artists on them, but they never get the attention. Or if they do...
as we heard 2 nights ago from from a doctor, a person who holds that doctor's degree in psychology, his answer to that was, they destroy themselves between the drugs, alcohol, and fame. That's why they disappear. You're one-night wonders again. Overnight success.
So there you go. So you might have problems with one-night success. Here, one more.
And that's one of the problems we're seeing too, Kenny, with our search for Diane, because I think a lot of the networks and a lot of the people who are asking to help us here find this woman, thinks that her demise was at her own. But we know that it was foul play. Because, well, I don't know, can we say this? That we had to keep her in custody, sort of, protective custody at the house, like a lockup. She had an attraction to weirdos, and they all knew that she was ready to become the next hottest thing in the world, possibly, and they wanted control of that. And some of those guys that we had to keep her hidden from, Kenny, you remember that, okay? They would beat her, and she'd come back wrecked sometimes, and that's why we had to keep her locked up. She couldn't go nowhere. Like you being there, Vern being there, somebody in the, on the team was always with her.
What we mean by locked up, we mean kept in safety, because as we were talking about, she just had an eclectic, attraction for these guys who were strange people. That they were violent, totally violent people, and they like to beat up on her. So we tried to keep her out of harm's way. Of course, she was free to come and go. We didn't mean that, but we tried to keep her away from other people that were not good for her health.
Well, let me clarify that. For your listeners and your fans, we were instructed by, I won't say who, to do that. Okay, as we said earlier in your show, she was about ready to sign a huge record contract. Okay, and they weren't about to let something happen to her after she signed. Okay, that's all I can tell you. The dog said, yeah, that's right.
We're taking a break, and we're listening to R.G. Ingersoll, and this is the Hot Tracks Production Show, and this is SDC Radio Network's One Music and Review. If you just tuned in, we're talking to R.G. Ingersoll, famous producer, Hot Tracks Productions, and we're going to dive into a little bit of history. And like we talked earlier about Lee Rogers, our mentor. And when I got an opportunity to see Lee Rogers perform for the first time was at the Parisian Room in Los Angeles, sitting on a bench with a microphone, and he did John D. Loudermilk's Tobacco Road. Brought down the house, destroyed the whole nightclub. I mean, sitting on a bench with a band behind it, killed him. Standing ovation. My mouth just dropped, and I go, ooh-wee, Lee Rogers. Tell me a little bit about how'd you meet, your first time you met Lee Rogers?
We met at a place in Detroit, a teenage nightclub called the Village of Love, which really was the hub for quite a few famous artists today, or yesterday. Referring to people like Mitch Ryder, a couple of the Temptations, Undisputed Truth, a lot of studio players came from that little nightclub. It was just the talent was just unlimited, and that's where I first met Lee.
Lee had a lot of records out by that time, but he hadn't had that one magic one, and you guys met just before that one hit. Were you in the studio or anywhere around when he did I Want You to Have Everything?
No, I wasn't. I had just gave my best regards to the civilian way of life and joined the military because I was looking for adventure.
So you was on your way off to the service, and then all of a sudden Lee Rogers, I Want You to Have Everything, blows up the charts. What'd you think? You heard this in Germany, right?
Yeah, Mom sent that to me. Well, not only Lee, but Mitch Ryder took off with what was his first big one? Devil with a Blue Dress On, and then there was Lee, I Want You to Have Everything with his, and it was like, Mom shouldn't even been sending me that because my heart was breaking. because I couldn't be there. I wanted to get in all that, But I was, helping Uncle Sam.
You mentioned earlier that you started your first writing career with the likes of Sir Mac Rice, and Ted White, and Ronnie Shannon, and who was the other one?
Well, basically that was pretty much Ted White. Basically, that was quite an event, to see all these, these cats, and it wasn't like you go in and they're playing their songs that just came out of the studio. That environment was like songwriting 101, just starting songs. It didn't even have that much to it. And I was fortunate to see all this going on around me as I'm sitting down there drinking a coffee or something, And Ted looked over at me and said, "Hey, why don't you start writing?" And I wrote my first lyric right there in Aretha's house, as I said earlier, underneath all them gold records.
Underneath all the gold records, young Ingersoll starts learning how to write songs, and which has propelled him right to this very moment in time. Well, RG, I tell you what, we've been sitting here reminiscing about some of the craziest times in our life, some of the craziest stuff. Now, one of the favorite pet peeves at Motown at the time was that when we wrote songs and everybody wanted to get a piece of it. You remember that line, 10% of something is better than 100% of nothing?
That's right. Exactly. And that brings up an unwritten law in the business that a lot of songwriters, new songwriters, beginning songwriters, don't realize that until you sell 2 or 3 hits, you've got to get rid of your publishing. You got to give that up. You'll keep your writers, of course, but you have to give away that publishing till you make your mark. And then after that, you can split some of that other publishing with whoever that wants your song.
Back in the old days, our old days for sure, you got Morris Levy on songs like Why Do Fools Fall in Love. Morris Levy wouldn't know a note on the piano if it hit him over the head. Or, even I can't think of the guy you had the show in Cleveland. These guys, all these DJs ended up with their names on hit records that they didn't even write, but they shared into it. Why? To get them played? Do we still do that today?
Well, I guess it depends upon the author of the song. What is he willing to give up to get to where he wants to go within reasons? I think it boils down to an individual trade-off. Personally, if I got to give up the publishing on a song that's going to, let's say, one of the biggest acts in the world, I'm going to give that publishing away because I'm going to really get my kudos as the writer. Where the publisher don't get no kudos except within the industry.
But most writers these days, they have their own publishing house, and they work in conjunction with the major. Which is a good thing, bad thing, or?
And it still all boils down to, what you got in your catalog. Basically, what kind of material you got, who's plugging that material for your company to give it a reputation where everybody wants to go to your company looking for material. That it still boils down to that,
Be crazy, and want to thank you very much, and hope you tune back in and listen to us again. It's Kenny Smith saying, see ya! This has been a production of SDC Radio Networks, a division of SDC Omni Media Group. This has been your host, Kenny Smith, and we thank you for listening.